There's a ton of resources out there for you to look at, especially in Revelation. In this context, though, we go to verse 3, we kind of see... But everything all right? Oh, already? Okay. All right, y'all. It's been fun. You got 30 whole minutes, or 45 whole minutes. Okay, so yeah, in this context, looking at the idea of verse 3 for a little bit of context to see where our scope is. For we are the circumcision. So we pause right there. So this is connected to verse 2. Look out for the dogs. Look out for those that do evil. Look out for those who mutilate the flesh. Although there is some pagan worship services going on in the first century where body mutilation is utilized to try to invoke a spirit or a god to pay to be circumcised, and then after that, then you can become a Christian. And I get where they get that from, because we've got a couple 100,000 years of people being acceptable to God because of the law of Moses. And so I can imagine how that might be confusing, that's no longer a requirement. All of that tradition, all of that heritage you're just leaving behind, well, that's not what we want to do. Paul himself would go on to either utilize or Christian. He's saying, don't worry about that. Because, verse 3, because we are the circumcision who worship God by the Spirit, who worship by the Spirit of God. Now, to me, that connects itself right back to John chapter 4. Just immediately. So you have John 4, right? You have a woman at the well. So to kind of give you that worldview, you never go to the well at noon. Why? It's too hot. It's the middle of the day. Here you are in the desert, and you're going to the well at noon. You've got a woman here by herself, it seems, with her water pot, and then there's a Jewish man, and the Jewish man does the unspeakable. He speaks to her, a Samaritan woman. So the Jewish man says, hey, can I have some water? He goes, well, what do you think you're doing? You're a Jewish guy talking to me. We don't do that. He goes, yeah, I'm here to meet somebody. Can I have some water? And she goes, you don't even have a pot with you. She knows about her personal life, things that she probably was looking to avoid a conversation about at the well that day. Knows that she's been with 5 other people. The guy that she's with now, she's living with, not her husband. Probably all of that, and so that answer. And then Jesus, for the first time in the book of John, says, that Messiah guy you're looking forward to, he's right here. And then she had her mind blown, and she could not keep silent anymore. She left her water pot at the well, and she went and told everyone in her town, who were probably trying to avoid her, hey, I met a guy who told me everything I ever did. But a hyperbole to show how excited she was, right? And so when you look at verse 3 here, and we see that Paul is trying to say, listen, you have some people that you need to watch out for when you're trying to live in a joyous way. And the people that are restricting the idea of who can be a Christian based on their Jewish heritage, they're the ones that we want to avoid, because, verse 3, we are the circumcision. We are the, hey, here's an example for you to follow. And so what did Paul have to boast about? What could he have confidence in, but he chooses not to? Verse 4, part B, if anyone else thinks he has reason for confidence in the flesh, I have more. So again, here's the context. He's saying, I want you to live in error. And one of those errors are people that have put a lot of stock and confidence and faith in the idea of just how Jewish they are. And then Paul's saying, you think they have a reason to boast about how Jewish they are? Do you know who I am? I mean, here's the apostle persecutor of the church. As to righteousness under the law, blameless. Okay. Let's pause right there and kind of break this down. Again, Paul doesn't do this often because he doesn't like to bring up who he used to be. He talks about who he is now in Christ. But if we think about what he's really saying here, he's saying if you think that the Jewish people in Philippi have something to be proud of to make other people become Jewish before Christian, they must have forgotten who I am. He's saying, yeah, I'm a Jew too by heritage, but I'm in Christ now. I used to be circumcised on the 8th day, as the law says, of the people of Israel, God's people, of the tribe of Benjamin, the first kingly tribe, a Hebrew of Hebrews. I was a Pharisee according to the law of Moses. Those who are called zealots in the New Testament as well. You have kind of two different versions of that. So you have the zealots who are the zealots of Judaism, and they are the ones that are basically assassins. Here's your apocryphal text of the Old Testament and read 1st and 2nd Maccabees, for example. The idea of Hanukkah is really the idea of the Maccabean rebellion. So you have Judas Maccabees, who is like the leader, the hammer, who is the one who tries to kick out the Grecian Empire and restore Israel to what it used to be. I hear that so often, and it blows my mind. It's impossible for man to keep the law of Moses blameless. If you were to keep the law of Moses perfectly and without blame, that wouldn't justify you before God. But could you actually keep the law? Yeah, you can. It's not going to save you, but you could keep the law blameless. Let me show you where I've learned that. Luke chapter 1. So I've heard that no one could keep the law. Wife from the daughters of Aaron, her name was Elizabeth. Great name for a little Jewish girl, right? So you've got this guy, Zechariah, who's a priest of God in the temple, and you've got Elizabeth, his wife. And they were both righteous before God, walking blamelessly in all the commandments and statutes of the Lord. Ta-da! Could you follow the law of Moses blamelessly? I think so. Luke had it right here. Unless Luke is wrong, which, I like the guy. He seems to be pretty accurate, right? If you read the whole first, told me what to name him. And thus, John the Immerser, John the Baptizer, John the Baptist. Okay, so when we go back to Philippians chapter 3, verse 6, Paul says, as to how zealous was I was killing Christians because I thought they were wrong. When it comes to my own righteousness under the law, I was what? Without blame. I kept the law of God perfectly. It didn't justify him, but it still showed how much he cared about this Jewish heritage that he had. Okay, vices can never wash away sin, they just push it forward. But he was saying, I took this seriously. And then he says, if they think they're keeping it seriously in Philippi, they forget who I am and count them as rubbish. What a great, polite English, British word there. In order that I may gain Christ. Okay, so who already knows what I'm going to say next? Well, me, yeah. I hope I would know. All right. This nice, polite, English, British word rubbish, the rubbish bin. So Luke, we asked him if he wanted ice cream recently. You know what that good old Southern Georgia boy said? All these accomplishments, they are garbage to me because I know who Jesus is. None of that matters to me at all. What was the command in chapter 3, verse 1? Rejoice in the Lord. Rejoice in the Lord. What's he saying here? If you're trying to find joy, you're not going to find it in all these accomplishments that you may be seeking after. The only thing that's going to give you that idea of being filled with joy is knowing Jesus the Christ. Right? You knew that already, right? Yeah, okay. As long as you knew it already, we're not wasting our lives trying to look after things that might make us feel happy for a little while and they fade for some reason. That's happiness, not joy, right? Knowing Christ.